Welcome to episode 17 of the Stitch Create Love podcast. My name is Lyndsey and I'm coming to you from Cheshire in the northwest of the UK, where I live with my husband Stephen and our 5-year-old daughter Eloise. You can find me on Instagram and Ravelry and Etsy as Stitch Create Love, and I will pop links to all of those places in the description box below, as well as popping some details on the screen for you to see as well. I've kind of astounded myself a little bit today because it is exactly 2 weeks since I filmed my last podcast, and I am determined, absolutely determined, even if I don't get it all filmed today, to get it filmed this week because it's half term at the moment. And I'll go kind of into more of that in a little while. So if you are a returning viewer, welcome back. It's lovely to have you with me. It's much easier this time, I think, recording because I haven't been away so long, and it's been lovely to have all of your comments in the meantime and all of your support, whether that's been commenting on the podcast or getting in touch on Instagram. It's always lovely to hear from you. The community that we have in terms of subscribers to the podcast and things is really, really lovely and friendly and really important to me. So thank you very much to everybody that's been in touch, and welcome back. I hope that you are staying safe and well. And if you're new, because I have had a few new subscribers kind of in between Christmas and now really. So if you are new, then welcome. It's lovely to have you with me. If you are new, do let me know where you've come from, as in who sent you across. Maybe YouTube told you about my channel, but I know that a lot of my other podcaster friends have been kind of mentioning whether it's my podcast or my patterns or things lately. So yeah, do let me know where you've come from, and I hope that you enjoy the podcast. So, as I say, it is only 2 weeks since the last episode, and therefore I don't feel quite as overwhelmed about all the things that I've got to talk to you about. So today we're going to be looking at projects. There is a finished project. You know, that's lovely, isn't it, to have a finished project to share. So yes, there is a finished project that I'm going to talk to you about. I've got lots of things that I'm working on. I'm going to update you a little bit on the design process. I'm working on 2 designs at the moment, a shawl design and a sweater design, so I'll update you on progress with those. In terms of the talk topic for today, I'm going to talk a little bit, about fibre. And when it comes to yarn, by which I mean fibre content of yarn and how different fibres might behave and the kind of different qualities that different fibres might have. And I do not pretend to be an expert in this. I'm just going to share with you what I've learned, and I would love to hear from you as well. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. I am going to do a bit of sharing the love, as always, because it's lovely to support other people, be they designers, podcasters, people within the community, small businesses. So I will do some sharing the love. And then at the end, I'm going to have a little bit of a chatty section, as usual, where any other random waffles and rambles that have not seeped their way into the rest of the podcast will no doubt be discussed. Have a cup of tea, because I don't know about anybody else that does this kind of thing, but as soon as I switch the camera on, I seem to have a frog in my throat and need to kind of clear my throat endlessly. So yeah, I've got a cup of tea, chamomile and honey tea, courtesy of Karen from Stitches and Jacks. Hi Karen, if you're watching. Delicious. I think it's the Twinings one, so yeah, if you're on the lookout for a new tea, I know when I had was it the digest tea I had? I know Ruth from Ruth Loves to Knit had to go out and buy the tea. It appears that we're not just enabling people to buy yarn, but also tea as well. Anyway, I'm rambling already, so I have got my cup of tea here. I don't actually have any notes in front of me, so anything could happen today, but I have got in my head what I want to discuss with you. So let's talk about projects first of all, shall we? So projects this time. I normally say, oh, there's a bit of a theme here. I don't know whether there's a theme or not today, because I'm just I'm going to talk about them as they kind of fall out of my brain, I suppose. The first thing that I wanted to show you, see, I told you about this throat clearing business. Oh, and that's a little bit hot. The first thing that I wanted to show you is what I am wearing. So this is something that you're not going to be able to see terribly well. Shall I attempt to stand up on the bench here. Let's have a go. If you follow me on Instagram, you will have already seen this. So if I lift it up a little bit there, you can see the length. And I will just do a little bit of a turn around for you and get down without doing myself a mischief. This is the Myosotis Dress. I'm going to sit down and I'll stand up if I want to talk about any of the details with you. So it's the Myosotis Dress, which is a pattern by Deer and Doe Patterns. And I did show this in my last episode. I'd made a toile of the bodice in just some cotton fabric that I had, which was really good just for getting the fit right. And I wanted to make it in this Georgette fabric that I have. Now it is coming out a little bit more orangey ready pink than pinky ready pink. It is more pink on here, and I will see if I can pop some photographs in just for you to see. Now, I ordered this back in the autumn, I think it was, after I had seen it. The first person I saw that had made it was Gaynor from Tales from Cuckooland, and then Jules from So Sweet Violet had made it as well, and it just looked like it was just so comfortable and easy to wear, and you know, it was floaty and it was lovely. So I thought, yeah, I'm going to get the pattern and I'm going to make it. And then it's taken me until now to make it, partly because, you know, we never have enough time to make all of the things that we want to make, do we? But also because, and I did mention this, I think in the last episode or possibly the one before, I have put weight on. I think a lot of us have put weight on in the last 12 months because of the circumstances that we've been living in. I think certainly I've realised in that time how much incidental exercise and movement we do from living a normal life as opposed to living in a lockdown. So I have put weight on, and I bought this in the autumn and I thought, no, I'm not going to make it because I'm going to lose some weight. And quite frankly, at the moment, whilst I do still want to lose some weight for, you know, health reasons and all sorts of things, it's not something that I can cope with right now, really kind of committing to weight loss. And, you know, my clothes, some of them don't fit. Some of them do fit, but they're not very comfortable. And some of them are just not right for the shape and the weight that I now am. So I gave myself a talking to and got a grip and just decided that I was going to make this because it is very loose fitting. So you can see here, if I just pull it in, so that's, you know, there is quite a lot, so it's loose fitting anyway. And you know, if I did happen to lose weight, and if I do lose weight, I tend to lose it here first, I can just put some waist ties on and tie it a bit tighter, or I can pop a belt on with it. So anyway, I got on with it and decided to make it. I think that there are two different, not versions of the pattern, but there's two different size options of the pattern, and this is, the sizes that you get in this are 34 to 46, and the bust measurements there go from 31.5 inches to 41 inches. So my bust measurement is 41 inches at the moment, my full bust measurement that is. So I made the largest size, which is the 46. And I thought I might have to shorten it a little bit because I wanted it to be a bit more empire line, but I think because I'm quite tall, I didn't need to do that when I toiled it. It was a nice length. It hits me here, which is the slimmest part of me. Not that it's that slim at the moment. So I made the largest size. What I did do, there are, let's show you the variations on the back. So there's two different versions. So there's one with the flouncy sleeves and the ruffle on the bottom of the skirt, and then there's another one without the flouncy sleeves and no ruffle on the bottom of the skirt, but the skirt is kind of the same length. What I did was I wanted the flouncy sleeves and I wanted the ruffle on the bottom of the skirt, but I wanted it to be a little bit longer, so I cut out the full length skirt piece for the non-ruffled version and then also cut out the ruffle to attach to it, which you will notice here meant that the ruffle, because it's coming lower down the skirt, the lower part of the skirt is actually wider than here, so it's not quite as gathered at the bottom, but you know, it doesn't really make too much difference, to be honest with you. So that's what I did. And it says that to make version 1, which is the, where are we, the flouncy version here, you need, let me see, fabric requirements, version A, 60 inches wide. It says you needed 3 meters to make that. Now I only had 2.7 meters of this fabric. It has pockets, which I didn't put in because I can't stand putting pockets in things because they just never sit right when I do it on a skirt that hangs, as opposed to like a trouser pocket or a patch pocket or something. It just never seems to be quite right for me. So I didn't do the pockets, but I did lengthen the this middle part of the skirt, and I got it out of 2.7 meters of fabric. So if you are somebody that has a little bit of experience in dressmaking and you're confident moving the pieces around and working out what you can get out of what bits of fabric, then you could probably get it out of a little bit less than 3 meters of fabric, to be honest. Yeah, I'm just checking. If you wanted to make version B, it says you need 2.5 meters of fabric. So I definitely could have got the version without the flouncy bits on out of the fabric that I had. And I really, really love it. I had a problem with the collar. As you can see, it's sort of, the collar is supposed to stand up. It's like a mandarin collar, I think, and it's supposed to kind of stand up like that. But mine doesn't, it flops down. And I'm not sure whether it's because the fabric that I've used is obviously very, very kind of floaty, thin and drapey. It's a georgette fabric, or whether it's because of where I kind of stopped sewing it to the neckline. Because when I sewed the toile, the collar went a little bit further down the neckline. So it did sit properly, but then that was in a different fabric. Whereas with this one, I've kind of eased in the neckline to make the collar fit exactly. I don't mind the way that it looks, but that's not the way it's supposed to look. And I know actually that Gaynor found the collar quite fiddly as well. We've been messaging on Instagram about it, so I know she found that a little bit tricky. So there are probably tutorials online that you could have a look at to do that. So I did interface the collar as well, which it tells you to do in the pattern, but it only tells you to interface. You have 2 collar pieces, so you have a front and a back, which then gets sewn together, and it only tells you to interface one of the pieces of the collar, but I've interfaced both because my fabric was flimsy. It also doesn't tell you to interface the facing, but you can see there that I did put interfacing on the facing because I knew that if I was going to put buttonholes on here, then it needed to have a bit more structure to it than the fabric had in its kind of natural state. I've got 3 buttons down the front. These are little purple Liberty buttons, let's go over there, that I had in my stash. So I put those down the front, but I have tried pulling it on and off with the buttons fastened, and I think next time I make it, I'm going to sew the front up to the point where the buttonholes are, and I'm just going to put decorative buttons on because, again, the fabric it's a very lightweight fabric. It's not got much structure to it, and so if you're kind of, you know, this is not a tight dress, it's a loose fitting dress, but there is still a little bit of kind of wibbly wobbliness going on here with the buttons. So I think I would sew it down next time and then put the decorative buttons on, or something else decorative actually, because if you're not having to put, buttonholes in, you're not really restricted by the size of buttonhole that you'd need, so you could put whatever you want on there. So I am very, very pleased with this. It's the first time I've made this dress. There are lots of dresses out there which are quite similar to this. There's the Wilder gown, which is by the Friday Pattern Company. There's the Florence dress, which is by Sew Over It. And there's this one, you know, the kind of the flouncy skirt and things. I think there's a lot of patterns out there like that. I've not made up any of those other patterns, so I can't comment on those. I would say this wasn't a difficult sew. It was a little bit fiddly with the gathers, but if you've done gathering before, you'd be fine. But the instructions within the pattern are not as detailed as some other pattern companies' patterns that I have used. Sew Over It patterns, their instructions are more detailed than this. If I I'll give you an example of what I mean by that. It's probably not going to be very helpful reading the French version of the instructions, is it? Although I did A-level French, it's a long time ago. Let me just have a look. Where are we? It was the sleeves that I kind of thought, I'm not sure somebody would be able to do this, really. yeah, it's just things like, you know, pin this to this and then stitch. And if you're somebody that's not put a sleeve in before, you might need a bit more information than that. If you're somebody that's not done gathering before, you might need a little bit more information than that. So, I mean, you're getting more instructions than you would in a kind of a Simplicity or a Butterick or a McCall's pattern, what you would call the Big Four patterns, because it is an indie designed pattern. But I wouldn't recommend it for a complete beginner, I think is what I'm trying to say. And the other thing that I did is it tells you to sew the front and the back pieces of the skirt together and the front and back pieces of the ruffle together, and then to do your gathering stitches around the ruffle and gather it up and sew it to the bottom of the skirt, which I did. But when I came to attach the skirt to the bodice, I did some gathering stitches on the front and I did some separate gathering stitches on the back, and I gathered them up separately, because I think if you're gathering in a big circle, particularly where you've already sewn seams together at the side and you've got a bit more thickness of fabric, it's very, very difficult to get even gathers on the front and the back. And it doesn't really matter with the ruffle, but I wanted the back of the dress to look right, basically. So yeah, it's very, very comfortable. It's not terribly warm, you know, for this time of year, but it's going to be lovely in the spring and the summer. And I think I'm definitely going to make another one, and I'm going to talk to you about that in a minute. I'm not sure whether I would include the sleeve ruffle were I to make another version, because it's just a little bit, you know, if you want to pop a cardigan or a sweater or something over the top, more in the summer, I suppose, then it's a little bit, there's quite a lot of fullness there. So I do have some more fabric that I would like to make these out of, she says, because I would like to make more than one. Now, the fabric that I have got from Rainbow Fabrics. They are on Instagram, and I will pop a link to them in the description box below, and they have a website. And what they do is they buy up a lot of dead stock fabric. For people who don't know, dead stock fabric is fabric that would have been intended for either high street shops or kind of designers. Alice Templey, for example, and they have some of her fabric, but it's like it's stuff that there was too much of it. So Alice Templey fabrics that they get, for example, there'll be kind of leftovers, and there'll be a limited amount of what they've got, and it's always at a really good price. These ones that I've bought were all fabrics that high street shops ordered but then cancelled orders in spring summer last year because of the fact that we're living through a pandemic. So these were £4.99 a metre, and they are fantastic quality viscose fabrics. So this is the first one that I got. Let me see if I can open it out a bit. The drape is fantastic, and isn't that just a wonderful summery print? And what I thought I would do with that is I'm going to make the same version as I've already made, but I'm going to make it longer. So it's going to be a floor length maxi dress, and I think that will be lovely for kind of slightly more dressy summer wear. And because it's viscose, it's a natural fibre, so it'll be nice and cool. It's not synthetic. So that's the first fabric that I would that I'm going to make another Myosotis out of. I've got another fabric for a Myosotis which I'll show you in a minute, but this is the other fabric that I got from Rainbow Fabrics. And again, you know, £4.99 a metre, it is beautiful. I think they still have some of the black background one in stock. They don't have this one in stock, but they have got lots of others, and they're really, really lovely. And what I think I'm going to do with that is I'm possibly going to make another sew over at Eve dress, or I might just end up making another one of these, frankly. Let me go and get the other fabric that I've got for the Myosotis, though, to show you. So the other fabric that I've got to make the Myosotis dress in is this one. This is a crepe, and this is a Lisa Comfort crepe, and it's in the, I think it was called Wildflower Meadow. I'm not sure whether she still does this fabric or not. Now, I'm not 100% sure whether this is my colour or not, but what I thought was, if I wear this with either some jewellery or a shawl or a scarf, accessories that are picking out the colours that are in the fabric, so the blues and the pinks, then I think it will be really, really nice. I think it will give a slightly more versatile look. Again, that is very, very drapey. It's also a little bit sheer. Let me see if I can show you. This is really hard. You can't really see it on camera, but I'll just wear a slip underneath it. It'll be absolutely fine, because I don't want to line it, because I think it would affect the look of the garment. So so yeah, that's my other planned myosotises, and I'm aware that I've talked for quite a long time about that project, but I really do like it. And I think if you are somebody that's got a little bit of dressmaking experience, where, you know, if you've just made something before, or if you're prepared to go online and search out, you know, on YouTube tutorials of, you know, how to do this or how to do that, I think you'll manage that. And if you are somebody that, you know, wants to have a go at making that, and you do struggle with anything, or you have any particular questions, then of course you can always get in touch with me and ask me, and I will do my very best to help you. So that is quite a long sewing segment. The rest of the things that I'm going to talk about are knitting. So if you are somebody that is just here for the knitting, then it's knitting all the way. Okay, so I've just been to retrieve some bits and bobs from the other room. I'm going to talk to you first about the 2 designs that I'm working on. Now, I appreciate that you can't buy these patterns at the moment, and I appreciate that they are not finished items at the moment, so it might be a little bit difficult for you to visualise what they're going to look like. But I really do think, and I really do feel, that this podcast is my place to document my journey in terms of my kind of personal crafting projects and knowledge, but also in terms of my design journey. And I think for the most part that people do enjoy hearing about that. Yeah, I know you can't get the patterns at the moment. I do still try and include things in here that you are able to get and that are not patterns that I've designed. But at the moment, I don't have an awful lot of crafting time because I'm homeschooling my daughter. It's half term this week, which is why I'm able to film this. My husband's taking her out to the shops for a little while to pick something up. So, you know, this might end up being filmed in 2 chunks if they come back in the middle of it, for example. But yeah, I don't have a lot of crafting time at the moment. And because my design work is currently the only way I have of making an income, I need to focus the crafting time that I do have on that. So if you find it a little bit frustrating that I'm showing you things that you can't get yet, I'm sorry about that, but I hope that you will still enjoy hearing about what I'm showing you. And I'm still showing you yarns that you can buy. I'm still sharing the work of fantastic yarn dyers. I'm still often sharing the patterns of other designers with you. So anyway, I'm going to stop blathering on and hope that it will be fine. So this is my shawl that I am working on, which I had started last time and I showed you last time, and the yarn that I am using for it at the moment is this yarn, and it is Mr. and Mrs. Rabbit yarns, dyed up by lovely Claire, and it is called Misty Morning. And I've had this for a little while. I don't think this is in her shop at the moment, but Claire, honestly, anything that Claire dyes up, I'd love to add to my stash. So she does beautiful yarns, and I'm sure, absolutely 100% sure that, you know, if she hasn't got this one in the shop, you will find something else that you enjoy. So there we go, Mr. and Mrs. Rabbit yarns. And the yarns that she dyes up now do have a slightly different composition to this, because this is an 80% wool blend of Polwarth and Corriedale and 20% nylon. And I think her base that she's using now is a little bit different to that, but it's all still sock yarn. It's appropriate for sock projects. So what I decided to do with this, I'm just going to take my row counter off so that things don't end up toppling all over the place, and I'm just going to move the shawl into a position where my stitches are not going to fall off the end, because I haven't put a lifeline in yet. I'm going to put a lifeline in. That's the next thing I need to do. I'll talk to you about that in a minute. So at the moment, it's looking a bit sort of lumpy because it needs blocking. And basically what I've decided to do is I decided to cast on this shawl from the bottom up, and I'm hoping to goodness that it's going to work. If it doesn't, this has not been wasted, because I can just attach this to the bottom of something else that I knit top down, and it'll be fine. And I can write the pattern up so that I can include this from being done top down, basically. But I've used fur comb lace at the bottom. If I pull it a little bit, it's that way around. you should be able to see. You see these lumps, these little pockets, they will block out, which is what I want to do. So you can see you've got the lace in there looking a little bit like, or very like, fir cones in the forest. If I put it, no, that's probably better to be darker behind it actually, so that you can see it. I mean, this yarn is just lovely, and again, you know, I've nearly dropped my stitches now. So that is the bottom section. And the reason that I wanted to do the bottom section first is because I am terrible, and you will know this if you've watched this podcast for a little while. Excuse me. I'm terrible, particularly with shawls, for starting, because it all comes together very quickly at the beginning and it's usually quite simple, and then I get to the beautiful part, the really lovely part at the bottom, which is the lace, because I love lace knitting, and then I just sit on it for ages. So I thought, well, if I do the lace first, that's done, and then the simple bit comes after, in theory, hopefully. So what I'm going to do first of all, before I kind of go any further, is I'm going to pop a lifeline in here. You can actually see it really nicely if I hold it back here. I'm going to pop a lifeline in because for anybody that doesn't know, a lifeline is where you just weave either another strand of yarn, or some people use like dental floss or really strong thread into all of your stitches with a needle, or there are ways that you can do it as you're knitting, but my needles don't have an attachment on here for me to be able to do that. So you thread that through, rather like as if you were putting your stitches on waste yarn, but you keep your stitches on the needle, and then you just carry on with what you're doing. And then at any point above that lifeline, if something goes wrong, or if you don't like what's happening, you can just pull it back and you will always be able to get back to these live stitches. So that's what I'm going to do, because I haven't done any decreases or anything yet, and I'm going to start doing my decreases. So I'm going to pop a lifeline in, and then I'm going to change over to this yarn, which is this dyer I don't think is dyeing anymore. It was Alice Yarns and it was called Pink Lemonade, and it's 50-50 silk and merino, and you can see the lovely sheen on that. And I'm going to break that up with I think probably some stockinette stripes of this, and I'll alternate to use up some more of this yarn. I would like to try and use as much of it up as I can, really. And then once I've done that for enough of you know, I get the look that I want, I'm going to go into this yarn, which is from Becky at Back to Blighty, and it's called the Lady of Shalott, and this is 80% BFL, 20% nylon, and it's got quite a high twist on this. So my original intention was to just do either garter or stockinette with this, and then alternate with something with this as well, possibly with some eyelets. But because this has got a high twist on it, I think it's going to give really lovely stitch definition, and so I'm thinking about doing a very, very simple texture over it, obviously, which will be kind of forest related. So that's where I am with that one. Now that I've done the lace section at the bottom, which it's not complicated lace, it just takes time because there's like over 300 stitches on here at the moment. Now that I've finished that, I think it's going to come together a lot more quickly. So I'm hoping that I should be able to get that pattern out within the next month, hopefully. And of course, you know, we are all hoping against hope, aren't we, that schools are going back very, very soon. So we'll see what happens. But that's where I'm up to with that. And I think that I'm probably going to, I haven't definitely decided yet, but it's probably going to be called the Enchanted Forest shawl, because that's where I'm going with that. And obviously I've got the fir cone motif, so maybe there'll be some kind of magical textural pattern in the part above. We shall see. So that is my shawl, will be a pattern design. And the other design that I'm working on, which I really do definitely want to document the journey of this here for all of you to understand what goes into a design, but also for me to be able to reflect and look back on what I've learned, because I'm doing a course which is Sweater Design School, and it's run by lovely Claire, who has the Sister Mountain blog. I think I popped a link to her blog underneath the last podcast, and I will pop a link underneath again here, because her blog has got some really, really useful information on it. So We had to knit, last time I showed you we had to knit a mini sweater, and woefully I still haven't picked up the stitches for the neckline, but it's going to be, this will be the shape of my sweater. The sleeves may be a slightly different shape. I might have them not tapering quite so much at the bottom, or I might start the decreases a little bit sooner here. I don't know, I'll decide, but it's going to be a drop shoulder sweater. And what we had to do, our kind of homework, after we'd done that, was to put a mood board together to give the aesthetic of the design that we were going for. So I will pop it up on the screen, I'll cover the whole screen with it, a picture of the mood board that I have put together. And what I was going for was very kind of gentle, slightly romantic feeling, powdery, pastel-y, soft, feathery, all of those words basically. And so what I've done is, coming off of that, we were encouraged to design a stitch pattern. We could either use a stitch dictionary and just pull a stitch pattern straight from there, or we could, you know, look through a stitch dictionary for inspiration and then fiddle about a little bit with the stitch pattern to get something that we liked. And that's what I did. I have, it's in a, I think it's in a lace knitting stitch dictionary that I have. There was something which looked like it had a little bit of a feathery look to it, and then I changed it to make it look how I wanted it to look. So this is the stitch pattern that I have come up with. So the feathers, you can see here, you've got the central decreases there, which are giving you the kind of the spine of the feather, and then this is the outside. So I hope that that's clear, that that's what that's designed to be. And again, you know, with me, I love lace, and I would love to be able to knit very, very complicated, intricate, beautiful lace, but I can't concentrate long enough and not make a mistake when I'm doing that. So it's not a difficult stitch pattern for you to be able to do. And then once we'd done our stitch pattern, we needed to do, I'm just gonna have a sip of my tea. That's cooled down a lot, that's lovely. Yeah, we were encouraged to do a mini sweater swatch, I think. So not a full mini sweater, but a swatch which showed you the design elements of the sweater that you're going to design. Okay, so I've had to move into the other room because people returned, but we can work around that. So I was in the process of showing you my mini sweater swatch. So it's basically a swatch where you include the main kind of design elements so that they can all just be seen on one swatch. Okay, so this is mine. So the stitch pattern, you're not getting an idea of scale there because that is the actual size that it will be down the centre front of the sweater. What I've done on the hem is I've used a herringbone rib, because it just kind of, it has the same kind of offset chevron-y look about it, and I thought that was just nice. I need to work out how to bind it off properly to get the best look, so I'm going to play about with the bind off of that. The sleeves it'll be drop shoulder, and then you can see I've included a little bit of the herringbone detail there before going into a ribbing for the cuff. And then the neckband, again, the bind off needs a dressing here. I think a tubular bind off would probably be much nicer, but you've just got some ribbing on the neckline. So that's where I'm up to with the design. So the next part is the scary part. It's the maths part. So we're going to be talking through kind of how to grade your sweater for different sizes, the amount of ease to include and things like that. So that is the next module that we're doing, and yeah, I will continue to keep you updated on the process as I go through it. I just kind of wanted to share it so that I can document it here, but I think it's also really interesting if you're somebody, sorry if you can hear Eloise in the next room. Okay, I think it's really interesting if you're a knitter to find out about a designer's process, because There are a lot of patterns out there for you to choose from, first of all, and you might choose a pattern based on the look of it, you might choose it based on a particular designer's process, you might choose it because it's the theme or the story behind the design speaks to you, you might choose it because of the yarn that's been used. So there's lots of different patterns available out there, but there are also lots of patterns out there that are different but are also similar in many ways. Shawls, for example, how many different crescent shaped shawls are there? How many different triangular shawls are there? And they're all different, even if they look similar in some ways. And I think a designer's process is always really interesting to find out about. There's only so many different shapes of sweater and shawl and things. Sorry, I stopped there because the shouting was absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, I think it's just interesting to know about what goes on in a design process, and some people's process might be slightly different, but I thought it would be interesting to share mine with you. And there are a lot of really interesting things about the design process on Claire's blog. Claire is the lady who runs the course that I'm doing, and I will leave a link to her blog underneath this episode. Sister Mountain is the blog, and I will leave a link to a couple of interesting posts on the blog that you might be interested in reading if you're interested in designers' processes and things like that. So I'm going to move on now to the kind of let's talk about section, and I'm going to talk about fibre today, and within that I'm going to talk about a pattern that I want to start knitting up. So I'll talk to you about that in a minute, because there are lots of different fibres that we find in yarns. I think sock yarn, merino nylon sock yarn, or merino yarn is something that we all probably know about and use a lot of, because that is by far, I think that's the most widely used yarn base by indie dyers, certainly here in the UK anyway. So I think we all know about that. But then there are other different kind of blends that you can get. You can get BFL, Blue Face Leicester, with nylon. You can get silk in yarn, you can get cotton, you can get linen, you can get viscose, you can get bamboo, you can get alpaca. I've talked on this podcast before a lot about Libby Jonson, who is Truly Myrtle Designs, and she uses a lot of possum in her yarns. You can get yak as well. So there's so many different fibres that you can get to use within your projects. And the yarn that I have chosen to use for my sweater project, I got it in here. I just went to get a ball out to show you in the end. So Drops Baby Merino is what I'm using in my design. And the reason that I'm using this is because I wanted a natural fibre, because I wanted it to be warm. But the way that the yarn has been kind of plied or spun, I suppose, it gives a really, really good stitch definition. So that's why I'm using that. And I think certainly as a beginner knitter, I didn't really appreciate the different properties that different yarns had, and I certainly wouldn't have ever thought of necessarily buying anything other than merino nylon sock yarn if I was buying indie dyed yarn. But as I've gone on in my kind of crafting journey, I have become more aware of the different fibres. So for example, when I did my Dance Like No One's Watching cowl, I held it together. I held a strand of sock yarn together with the floof, which is baby alpaca and silk, because I wanted to have the little bit of drape that the silk would give, but also I wanted to have the warmth of the alpaca, because alpaca is considered to be a very, very warm yarn. And alpaca yarn also has a slight halo to it, which can give certain effects to different designs. Silk, I really love silk in yarns. I was showing you before the yarn that I'm going to be adding into my shawl, if I can get out of here. That's got silk in it, and you can see there the sheen on that yarn, and that is coming from the silk, and silk will also give you a lovely drape as well. I've not used many fibres that don't come from animals, I suppose is the right way to put it. So things like bamboo and linen and cotton, and that's where I'm going to go to now to talk to you about the project that I am planning to make. So let's just get the pattern to show you. So last week Libby Jonson, who is Truly Myrtle, released her latest pattern, and this is available to everybody to buy. It's not part of Wardrobe Toolbox, so you can get this one if you're particularly interested in it. This is the Reef sweater, and as you can see, it's sleeveless, like a kind of a tank, a cami really. Sorry, that's not a colour picture. But she has made this up in a linen, I think. Yeah, 100% organic linen. So this is a summer top. It's not something that you necessarily, I mean, you could use wool in it if you wanted to, but you know, it's not necessarily something that you would immediately be using wool in. I really love, like, look at the way that's been styled in that photograph. Isn't that just lovely? So I really like the idea of this for the summer, and I have got some yarn which I've had for a while. It is Bergère de France, and it's cotton 50, and I think the top that Libby's done was done in more of a sport weight, 155 meters per 50 grams, but this is, it took me ages to find this the other day. This is 140 meters per 50 grams. That was interesting. Anyway, regardless, it's of a similar kind of yardage. So I'm going to swatch with that and see if I can get the gauge that I want to be able to knit it. So it's in this kind of really nice summery yellow colour, and I just thought it would be really nice to have that to be able to wear in the summer. Because I really love the way she's got it with a really nice long flowing skirt there. I have got some fabric that I would love to make a really nice long flowing skirt out of. So that is what I'm going to be knitting. But I didn't really know what yarn to use, and this is in my stash, which is why I'm using it, because I don't know whether or not I'm going to like the feeling of knitting with cotton or linen, because I know linen can be quite slubby, and I don't know that that's necessarily something that I would like knitting with. So this is 50% cotton, 50% acrylic. I think I bought this when it was in some kind of sale, and it was ridiculously cheap. It was probably less than about £2 a ball. So I'm going to have a go in that, and if I decide that I do like it, then I think I might perhaps have a look at some linen yarns and see how I feel about that. So yeah, so let's talk about fibre. You know, what do you like to knit with? What do you like to use in your projects? Are there things that you don't like to use? I know a lot of people don't like to use mohair because they find it quite scratchy and it irritates their skin. Yeah, but I'd be interested to know what your preferences are, and let me know if you've knit particular projects in particular fibres. Let me know how they've looked. Sorry, there's a delivery van outside, but it's gone past now. Incidentally, Libby Jonson's most well-known design is the floozy cardigan. There's another floozy coming soon, or another version, another similar kind of design. I think it's coming next month actually, and I think it's called Dolly. So yeah, if you're interested in that. But anyway, the floozy cardigan has been knit by so many different people in so many different yarns, and it's really interesting the different looks that you can get from the same pattern just by using different yarns. So for example, I think the sample was it had quite a lot of silk content in it. I think it might have been silk cashmere merino that Libby knitted, the pink one that's on the front of the pattern. But then I've seen it knit up with Paula from Stitch by Mrs D did it in drops alpaca, and I've seen lots of different versions. So yeah. Sorry, I keep having to stop, and now my husband is off today. He's not working today, and so he's taken Eloise outside. So hopefully the last section of this won't be ridiculous. So what I was saying was, if there are any fibres that I haven't mentioned that you have used, or if there is anything that you know about particular fibres that you think I might be interested in, then let me know. You can comment below, you can get in touch on Instagram, you can post on Instagram. Yeah, so let's have a little chat about fibre content of yarn between this podcast and the next one. And incidentally, I'm also interested in hearing people's not so much people's thoughts on acrylic in terms of, you know, oh, it's acrylic, it's plastic, it's because I know that, and I think we are all aware of that, and whether we use acrylic yarn or not, we know that, and that's not the kind of conversation that I'm opening up really. But acrylic yarn obviously is useful for certain projects because it's easy to care for and things like that. So yeah, I'm not just talking about natural fibres. I'd be interested to hear about whatever it is that you're using. Yeah, so let me know. So on to sharing the love. I'm going to share the love for a couple of different people today. First of all, I'm sure you all know who she is by now because I think she's a bit of a hit at the moment in the podcasting community. But that's lovely Paula from Stitched by Mrs. D. I mentioned in my last episode, I had a very brief discussion about the less positive and the less nice side of podcasting occasionally, and Paula sent me a really lovely message, and she's a really lovely person, and she started podcasting last year about the same time as I did. And I discovered her kind of late spring, early summer last year, and I have watched everything that she has put out since. She did Vlogmas as well, and I don't often comment on, in fact, it's not just Paula's videos. I'm terrible for, like, I watch so many podcasts and then I don't comment on them, and that's because I watch a lot of them on the television, and you can't comment on the television. I don't have a tablet, and sometimes I do watch on my phone, and therefore I will comment. But yeah, so rambly way of saying, I watch all of Paula's videos, all of Paula's podcasts. I love everything that she makes. I love her whole kind of the look that she goes for in all of her projects, and she's a really lovely, calm, kind, friendly person to watch. So if you don't know Paula, go over and have a look at Paula. I'm sure that you will love her episodes. And she makes beautiful bags and beautiful bears and other beautiful creatures that she puts into her Etsy shop as well. But if you want to get those, you've got to be quick because they go fast. So that's lovely Paula. The other person that I wanted to mention, I did mention Shannon from Blue Fern Yarns last time, and I just want to mention her again because she released her first knitting pattern last week, and it is a simple fade shawl. And it's the first one that she's done. I bought the pattern, and it's really comprehensively written. So if you're somebody that's not very confident with your knitting and you want somebody to hold your hand along the way to help you make a simple asymmetric fade shawl, then go over and have a look at Shannon's pattern, and I think you'll find that it's got the right level of detail in there for you. And I know Shannon's got lots more design ideas in the pipeline, so yeah, go and show Shannon some support if you can, on Instagram as well. She is on Instagram as Blue Fern Yarns. Incidentally, I put up a post on my Instagram stories this morning. Well, I put up two posts on my Instagram stories this morning. The first one was about how you can support friends in business without having to actually buy from them. And obviously a massive way that you can do that is by liking, sharing, commenting, or getting in touch with them and just being positive. So if anybody that you know has a small business that you would like to support, but for whatever reason you're unable to do so at the moment, then you can do that on social media for free. Honestly, I can't afford to buy very much yarn at the moment. I can't afford to buy any yarn at the moment, actually. But that doesn't mean that I'm not supporting the yarn dyers by sharing posts and liking and getting in touch with people and just saying how much I enjoy their work and what they're doing. So yeah, that was the first post that I put up. And the other post that I put up was kind of along the lines of what I was saying last time, really. There's a campaign, isn't there, at the moment? Sorry, there was somebody walking past our front garden and fell into the hedge. It's about 10 o'clock in the morning. Anyway, yeah, there's a campaign or a slogan at the moment, isn't there? Be kind to yourself, be kind to each other. And I think that it's easy to forget sometimes that we really do need to be kind to each other, particularly within this online community. And the other post that I put up was something along the lines of a strong woman is one who supports other women instead of trying to knock them down at every opportunity, or something like that. It's on my Instagram stories today, but then I probably won't get this uploaded today. But basically, yeah, let's all just be kind to each other. There's a lot of content out there on YouTube, and there are a lot of people that you can follow on Instagram, and there are a lot of designers whose patterns you can buy, and there are a lot of dyers whose yarn you can buy. And everybody's entitled to their opinion, and if you don't like something that somebody does, that is fine. But please just be kind about it. And if you don't like it, just move on and find something that you do like. You know, let's all just try and be kind to each other, because we are living in particularly difficult times. So that is Paula and Shannon that I wanted to share the love for today. And now we go on to chat. The first thing I'm going to share, for anybody that was wondering, after the last episode, I did have a few people contacting me and asking me about what happened with Eloise and the coin. So we went back to the hospital as we were told to on the Monday, and the doctor who we saw was just absolutely wonderful. He had children himself. He had a daughter Eloise's age. She had an X-ray, rather large coin on X-ray. And basically he said that it needed to come out. It couldn't stay in there, obviously, but that he didn't think it was going to come out of its own accord, so that he thought we were going to have to go to Alder Hey for Eloise to have it removed. And then he spoke to some people and asked us to go back and see him on the Thursday. So we went on the Monday. He asked us to go back on the Thursday and said, you know, if it comes out in the meantime, you don't need to come back, but really I don't think it is coming out. So we had a couple of days of worry. Having said he'd taken her outside, she's now back, but you know, hopefully if you can hear it, it's not too distracting. Yeah, so we had a couple of very stressful days, sleepless nights. Didn't tell Eloise, obviously, what was likely to happen. Thankfully, it came out of its own accord. So yeah, that was stressful. And she's very definitely learned her lesson. She's not going to be swallowing anything else that she shouldn't be swallowing again. And after it came out, we did share with her, you know, what the other outcome could have been, and I think she was sufficiently she realised that was sufficiently serious to not to be doing it again. So yeah, all is good on the coin front. And then I just thought I would have a little bit of a chat with you about where things are in terms of COVID here in the UK. We are still in a lockdown. Not that a lot of people out there would the behaviour of a lot of people out there doesn't suggest that that is the case. I know everybody's fed up. I'm fed up. Everybody's fed up. But yeah, people who are blatantly flouting the rules are not helping the situation, are they? And it's very frustrating. I had a lady got in touch with me after the last episode, you know, saying that she was shielding and just not, yeah, I hear what she was saying. It's very frustrating when people aren't following the rules. We are still in lockdown. It's the 15th of February today. I probably should have said that right at the beginning, shouldn't I? And it's Monday and it's half term this week. So that's nice, because whilst Eloise is here, I don't feel that we've got the kind of the pressure of having to get on with all of the homeschooling stuff. Hence why I wanted to try and film the podcast today. My husband's off today and he's also booked Friday off. So that'll be nice for us to have some family time together. The weather is supposed to improve a little bit here over the next few days and warm up. So hopefully we can spend some time outside and have some nice walks and things. We are due some kind of address from our Prime Minister today to tell us hopefully a little bit more information about schools going back. We're all hoping that the schools are going to go back on the 8th of March. I wish they were going back next week. Homeschooling has become, I mean, it's still hard. It's become something I'm a little bit more used to, because it's, you know, there's a routine there. For those of you who don't know, I used to be a primary school teacher, so I've got the skill set there, and I know, you know, I know what I'm doing up to a point, but it's still hard, and it's really hard when it's your own child to try and motivate them into doing all the things that they've got to do. So, you know, whilst I don't mind another couple of weeks of homeschooling, I just think, you know, the social side of going to school and being able to mix with their friends and things, it would just be so nice if they were going back after half term. But, you know, fingers crossed, hopefully the 8th of March things will return to normal. And we're being told, I think the message that is sort of seeping through is that they are going to gradually be reopening other areas of society and the economy. Sorry, I've asked her to stop shouting. They're going to be reopening other kind of areas of the economy and society gradually, with a view to not having to close them off again, because you know, the vaccines are being doled out here. The vaccination programme is going well, so we need to get to a point where the economy can function, basically. I'm sorry, I'm really distracted by what I'm trying to say, because despite the fact that I've asked her to stop shouting, she's still shouting, and it's really frustrating. And this is kind of part of the reason why, you know, filming podcasts is hard at the moment. So I'm going to end it there, rather than try and battle on and concentrate on what I'm saying when I just can't, frankly. I hope that you've enjoyed watching. I know I haven't talked about an awful lot of different projects and things today, but I hope that you have found what I have shared interesting. I do feel a real sense of achievement that I've managed to get an episode out 2 weeks after the last one. Hopefully it'll upload without any issues. Hopefully I'll find the time to edit it, but it's filmed, it's done, it's out there, and I would love to hear from you. I continue to get lovely messages and comments on here and on Instagram, and I love that. It's lovely to hear from you. I love hearing from each and every one of you, so please do continue to get in touch and interact. And if I don't always reply straight away, I do try my best to reply to everybody. Sometimes Instagram notifications, they get lost, so direct messages is usually a good way if you've got a burning question that you need to ask or something like that. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your continued support. I hope that you will continue to stay safe and well, and enjoy the rest of your day, whatever it is that you're going to be up to. Thank you for watching.